Okay, so today we are going to start with job design. Okay, we'll discuss what is job design, what are the different approaches of job design, and then we'll see that how we can redesign the job by adopting certain approaches. Okay, uh, if you look at job design, it's nothing else but you need to design job in to give individuals challenging goal and a sense of meaning at work. If you remember, you are going to design job in such a way so that people who are going to perform the job find it more interesting, attractive, meaningful and challenging, isn't it? And if you look at what does it include, you will find a number of things, like it includes a specification of goals, tasks to be completed by employees, including expected interpersonal and task relationships. Second, occurs every time individuals are assigned work, given instructions, are empowered to perform tasks and pursue goals. So, if you look at job design, you can say that a job consists of a number of tasks which one has to perform in a given job, isn't it? Now, when you are going to do a particular job, it is not that only you are going to perform the job, the tasks, but you also relate yourself with other people in the organization while performing your particular job, since jobs are interdependent. So, it does not only include completing certain tasks which is assigned to you, but also what kind of behavior is expected from you, okay, while performing a particular job, that is task relationship and interpersonal relationship, how you relate yourself with others in the organization. It may be your supervisor, it may be your subordinate. Okay. Now, if you look at the next point, that is occurs every time individuals are assigned work, given instructions, are empowered to perform tasks and pursue goals. Now, when you are assigned a particular job to perform, it is expected that you are given some kind of instructions that how you are going to perform the job, isn't it? Similarly, you are also given some power and authority on how to do a job, isn't it? Now, when we say that given instructions means that you get a broader frame of rules and regulations within which you have to perform your job, isn't it? These instructions act as a guideline for performing the job. Now, when we say that empowered, you are empowered, it means that you are given power on how you are going to perform the job. So, it's job design does not only include completing certain tasks, okay, but how you are going to complete a task, there are certain instructions, some power is also delegated to you so that you perform the job well. Now, why you are going for redesigning the job? Redesigning you are going to do so that you can perform the job in a much better way, isn't it? And redesign of a job basically requires only when the person who is performing the job find it boring, uninteresting, isn't it? So, you have to see that how you can change the content of the job so that people who are going to do it find it more motivating, more interesting. That is the third point. Redesign job for better performance using best means to motivate people and make their job meaningful. That is the objective for redesigning the job. Now, when you are going to redesign the job, another factor that is very important is that you make sure that it is going to fulfill the needs and expectations of the people, isn't it? Because while you are performing a particular job, you expect something from the organization. So, whether organization is going to take care of your needs or not, it depends upon what? Whether you are fulfilling or contributing to the objectives of the organization or not. Okay. So, if you look at the fourth point, that is individual and organizational needs to be considered, and if you are going to redesign the job, definitely it will help in improving the quality of the product, improving the efficiency of the people as well as the organization. Now, if you remember, we talked about different type of approaches for designing the job, and Now if you look at this particular slide, see comparison of different job design approaches. Okay, uh, this is on two dimensions, that is impact factor and complexity. It means that how much impact it will have and how complex a job is. How we are going to increase the complexity? By increasing the number of tasks, and these tasks require different type of skills to perform, isn't it? And that is how you are going to increase the complexity of a job. So a job may be very simple, for example, where you are having only one task to perform and it requires only one skill. Similarly, if you are making it more complex, then what will happen? It means that person has to perform a number of tasks, and each of these tasks require different kind of skills. Okay, and that is how we are going to increase the complexity of the job. Similarly, if you look at the impact factor, how we are going to increase the impact factor? I mean, how much this job is going to impact the individual in terms of satisfaction of the need and expectations, as well as the organization, and how the job is being perceived by the individual. Now if you look at these two things, that is impact and complexity, it is defined here, that is the extent to which a job design approach is likely to be linked with factors beyond the immediate job, such as how it is linked with the reward system, how it is related to performance, what kind of leadership is expected, or what kind of leadership status is given, what kind of structure is, I mean, where the job fit into the structure, whether it is on the higher level in the hierarchy or whether it is in the lower level. So definitely a job which fetch more reward, isn't it, where you are able to prove your leadership quality, and if you are higher on the status in terms of hierarchy, then the impact factor will be higher, isn't it? And if you are low on these accounts, then definitely the impact factor is going to be less. Okay, so if you look at these two dimensions, and now if you look at the different approaches that is there, starting from job rotation, job engineering, job enlargement, job enrichment, and socio-technical system. Okay, now if you look at these systems, you can say the definitions that is given there. Now if you look at rotation, job rotation, what happens? That implies move from one job to another job and get opportunity to perform a variety of tasks, different tasks they are going to perform, but it does not require different type of skill to perform. Most of the time what happens, that they are going to perform similar or related tasks where they don't require any additional skill. One example, if you remember, I had given was a bank clerk. A bank clerk is being rotated to different jobs. He may be sitting on the teller, he may be on the deposit counter, he may be on the draft counter, he may be updating your passbook, isn't it? So all these jobs require more or less similar skills. But definitely if you rotate him from one job to another job, it would create some interest, some motivation in the individual to perform different type of tasks, isn't it? So that is a case of job rotation. The second thing is job engineering. Now, you know, when we talk about job engineering, it means that you are going to adopt a scientific approach or scientific methodology, isn't it? Why you are going to adopt a scientific methodology? So that you are more precise in performing certain tasks, so that you are not going to perform unnecessary tasks, okay, unnecessary movements, isn't it? And you are much more precise and specific in your behavior so far as job is concerned, isn't it? So the focus is on what you are going to do, focus on tasks to be performed, then methods to be used, what method is to be used to perform the job in the best possible manner that you are going to use. Flow of work among employees. Flow of work among employees means what? That how the work or the job is arranged from one employee to another employee, isn't it? Whether it is smooth or not, because jobs are interdependent. Your job starts only when someone else completes his job, so that it comes to your desk like an assembly line, isn't it? One person is performing a job. Once he completes his job, then it comes to your desk, you do your job and then pass it on to the next person. So the assembly line is made in such a way so that one person completes his job, then it goes to the next person without any interference or problem. Okay, and the time lag is minimum as far as possible, isn't it? And there is minimum movement. Actually, it started with Taylor's scientific management when he did this time and motion studies. Okay, what he did, he tried to observe people who are working and see that how much time they are going to perform a specific task and how many movements they are making. Okay, and then he analyzed that and tried to identify those movements which were not relevant or which could be reduced. Similarly, he also saw that how much time he is taking and whether we can reduce the time lag or not to perform the job. And this is what he calls scientific management approach. So when you go for job engineering, that is nothing else but a scientific approach where you are going to specify what you are going to do in terms of your job, how you are going to do it in terms of method. Okay, then the workflow is also decided. Layout of the workplace is in such a way so that it does not create any unnecessary movement, or it is not going to be more time taking, isn't it? Okay, and you have performance standards, so people know that what is expected from them to perform. Okay, so the basic idea behind job engineering is that you are going for more specialization, isn't it? You are going to specify everything, what is to be done, how it is to be done in terms of method, what is the workplace layout, what is the workflow. Everything is very accurately specified so that you don't take much time to perform the job, and it will help in increasing your efficiency. Now what he did, he linked this with reward system. He said that if you are going to improve your efficiency beyond a certain level, then it would be linked with certain incentives, that is the reward system. So in order to earn more, what you have to do, you are going to produce more, isn't it? So that you can earn more. But it has been criticized on various accounts by behavioral scientists, like how long you can go on working like that, isn't it? It will also affect the quality of the product, because in order to produce more and more, you overlook quality and there are going to be more and more rejections, isn't it? It would also create interpersonal conflict, because you are efficient, you can perform better, you can earn more, but the person who is working at the same level, who is working with you, is your colleague, he may not produce the same amount of output, so he would get less, and that would create a kind of rivalry or conflict between the individuals, isn't it? So on that basis, this job engineering approach has been criticized. Okay, now the next one is job enlargement. Now if you look at this, we'll talk about job enrichment at a later stage. Now job enrichment is basically expansion of number of different tasks performed by an employee. So what you do, you are going to ask a person to take additional responsibility in addition to his own duties and responsibilities, isn't it? For example, you are very efficient in production, you are a production manager, you are very efficient. Okay, and management think that you are doing very well, you are taking care of your job, and at the same time if some additional responsibility is given to you, you will also take care of that. So what will happen, you are being recognized by the management to give some additional responsibility, because they find it that your efficiency is higher compared to others, and that's why you are given additional responsibility, isn't it? And this would create some kind of motivation and challenge for the individual to take up additional assignment, isn't it? So this is how job enlargement is going to create some kind of challenge, interest and motivation in individuals to perform additional responsibilities. But not all individuals come forward to take this kind of responsibility. Some of them may reject it on the ground that this is not a part of their duties and responsibilities, isn't it? While some of them will take it gladly, isn't it? Because they think that they are already doing their job well and they can take up additional challenge, additional responsibilities, isn't it? It's clear to you? Now, the next approach is job enrichment. Okay. Uh, Job enrichment, basically you try to enrich the job in terms of its content. Now, if you remember, uh, there is one model which is known as job enrichment model. Job enrichment model. Now, if you look at this model, there are certain characteristics associated with the job. If you look at this point, job characteristics, that is skill variety, task identity and task significance. And another factor which is very important is autonomy and then feedback. These are the characteristics which you associate with the job. If these things are increased, I mean if you are going to increase the amount of these job characteristics, what will happen? It would result in certain critical psychological states, that is you will find the job more meaningful, you will take additional responsibilities, isn't it? And if that is so, it would result in higher satisfaction, better quality product and things like that. Now if you look at this uh, job enrichment model, you will find that these characteristics, especially skill variety, task identity and task significance, need to be increased, isn't it? So if you look at the definition of the skill variety, it means what? A skill variety is what? You are given a job which is challenging and where you require more and more skill to use to perform the job. It means if a job requires only one skill, it's a simple job, and if a job where you are going to perform a number of tasks which require more and more skills, so you are increasing the skill variety. Even if a person does not have that particular skill, what will happen? He will try to acquire more knowledge and skill in order to perform the task that is given to him, isn't it? So if you increase a skill variety, means that if you give him more tasks which require additional skills, not in terms of knowledge and skill base to perform, then you are increasing skill variety. Okay. Now the next thing is task identity. Task identity is defined as a task which can be identified. You put a tag or label for the job, and it is possible only a person is assigned a job from beginning to the end, isn't it? So that it becomes a complete job, sorry, task. So a complete task which is to be performed by an individual can be identified very well, that this is the job which the individual has performed, isn't it? So you put a label that this is the task which is performed by the individual. Similarly, task significance. Yes, how important the task is for the department and for the organization. I mean, how the job is being perceived. If you think that the task which you are performing is significant in terms of its relevance and importance, and it contributes to the objectives of the department or the organization, then you are increasing the significance of the task, isn't it? So if the person who is performing the job knows very well that it will have a significant impact on others, in terms of other people, on the department or its objectives as well as the organization, then you are increasing the significance level of the job. Most of the jobs which are performed by people in organizations, okay, have more significance, but similarly there are few jobs in the organization which does not have that much importance, or they are not as significant as other jobs. If you compare different jobs, you will find that some of the jobs are more important compared to the other jobs, isn't it? Like in organizations, what are the jobs which are considered as more significant and important? Like production, like marketing jobs, because they are the line functions. Similarly, say accounts job, establishment job, maintenance job, isn't it? They are significant, they are treated as less significant. Why? Because they are treated as support services, because their job is to support the line function, that is production function and marketing function, isn't it? These are the two most important functions in the organization, so manufacturing and product marketing, isn't it? So you have to see that you give due importance to each of the job which is performed by the individual. Only then you can say that yes, the person knows that how significant its job is. Say for example, a person who is responsible to maintain a good relationship between the management and the labor, say industrial relations officer or the labor welfare officer. If you think that his job is good for nothing, it is his job and he has to do it, and it does not contribute anyway in the objectives of the organization, you are wrong. You give an impression that your job is equally important and significant, because if there is not good labor management relationship, indirectly it will affect efficiency, isn't it, and productivity of the organization, isn't it? For example, if there is conflict, there is a strike, there is a lockout because of the bad industrial relations, I mean the bad relationship between the management and the union, then what will happen? The production will come to a halt, isn't it? The production process will suffer, the outcome will be definitely affected. So you tell him that your job is also important. It's not that the person who is producing something is only important, isn't it? Say for example, I am giving an example from IIT. Say we say that these are the departments which are good, which are more important, and these are the departments which are not good. Okay. Okay. The general impression is that the humanities and social science department is a support department, isn't it? You may be a good engineer, but at the same time you need to be a good human being as well, isn't it? It's not that you are going to perform your job in the organization, but you also relate yourself, you communicate to the people, isn't it? So how effectively you communicate, who is going to teach you? The humanities department, the social sciences department. How well you can relate yourself with others, who is going to talk about that? The humanities and social science department. How you develop good leadership quality, how you motivate people to perform their job well, who is going to talk about that? Social sciences, isn't it? So while you become a good engineer, you also need to be a good leader, a good human being. So how you are going to undermine the importance of a particular department and say that that department is more important and that more significant, isn't it? So I'm just giving this analogy to explain that you make sure that the tasks are identified well, and you also ensure the person that his job is recognized, it has its own significance and does contribute to the objectives of the organization. Okay. Now we come to the next factor, that is autonomy. Autonomy is what? The authority and freedom that is given to the individual. Now the question is that how much autonomy or authority you are giving people to perform a particular job. The thing is that you can give too much autonomy. I mean, you leave it in to the individual that how he is going to perform his job, or you don't give any autonomy. What does it mean? It means that you are going for a strict supervision, much more control on the individual on how he is going to perform a job, isn't it? Now the question is that if you give him enough autonomy, then what will happen? He will feel more responsible, isn't it? One example that I can give you, and I had given also earlier, like if I tell you that okay, this job is to be done, you give me the deadline. So I give you enough autonomy to decide when you are going to complete a particular job. So if you decide, then you feel more responsible and accountable to perform the job. But if I tell you as a manager, as a supervisor, that say, this is the job which you have to perform, whatever the constraints may be, then in that case, if the job is not done, then you may come out with a number of excuses. Sir, this could not be completed because of this reason or that reason, isn't it? And when I say that, okay, I give you enough power and authority to decide how you are going to do it, when you are going to complete the job, you give me a deadline, you think about all the pros and cons, okay, and then you decide that this is the date, this is the time when we are going to complete, then I have given you enough authority. Now the question is not it is giving too much authority or too less authority. The question is that you give him appropriate authority depending upon his job, so that he can do his job very well without much supervision and control, isn't it? And if that is so, what will happen? If you increase the amount of skill variety, you make the task identifiable, okay, and significant, it would increase the meaningfulness of the work. People who are going to perform the job, they will find it more meaningful, more challenging, more interesting, more attractive. And if you give them an autonomy, then they will feel more responsible and accountable to perform the job. Similarly, another important factor, that is feedback. Feedback is what? The knowledge of result, isn't it? You tell how well you are doing, okay, and that is possible only when you have a feedback system in place, so that you know how well you are progressing, what you are doing, whether you are deviating from the path or not, whether you are going on the correct direction or not, isn't it? Like while you are driving a car, you get the feedback how fast you are driving a car, isn't it? So that you can control yourself, isn't it? Well within limits, isn't it? Similarly, when you are performing a job, you know whether you are performing the right thing, you are doing the right thing, so that you can complete the job and meet the target within a given time frame or not, isn't it? If that is not so, you may not be able to complete the job within the given time frame, because there is no feedback system. You don't get any feedback information about how well you are doing, how well you are progressing, okay. So these critical psychological states especially result in certain things like uh, the person would be highly motivated to perform the job. I'm not talking about external motivation. External motivation comes from rewards, isn't it? Status and all those things, isn't it? That is not so. The person would be intrinsically motivated to perform the job, because he will find that yes, his job makes a sense to the organization. It is contributing to the objectives of the organization. So you are not bringing reward and status into the picture. You are telling him that your job is important, okay, you are using all your skills, so you will find that yes, the person is internally motivated, not externally motivated. So if these factors are present, then it would result in internal motivation. Similarly, it would also result in high quality work performance, isn't it, and high satisfaction with the work. If you know that your job is challenging, you have done it well within a given time, you are being recognized for that, isn't it? It is contributing to the objectives of the organization, then it would definitely create a kind of satisfaction that you are looking forward to, isn't it? And if that is not so, you will not feel very much satisfied while doing a particular job, isn't it? And it would also result in low absenteeism and turnover. What does it mean? If you find your job interesting, you are motivated to perform, you have taken the responsibility, so there is a given time frame within which you have to complete the job, isn't it? If that is so, then you will work, you will not go for leave, isn't it? Because you know that you have taken the responsibility and you have to complete the job, isn't it? and you would also not quit the organization because your internal needs are satisfied in terms of challenge, in terms of motivation, in terms of satisfaction. You have all this. Okay. So there would be less implied turnover. The turnover doesn't mean that financial turnover here. It means that your intention to quit a job would be less. But if these things are not present, say for example, uh, you are doing a job which is not very challenging and attracting, and it does not give you any kind of satisfaction, then what will happen? You would leave that job and join a job where you will find these things, isn't it? Now, if you look at these core job characteristics, then critical psychological states and personal and work outcomes, it is moderated by certain factors, that is individual differences. Okay. It is not necessary that even if you increase the skill variety and tell him about the importance of the job, give him, even if you give him autonomy and feedback, it is not necessary that it would result in higher productivity, better quality and more satisfaction. It is moderated by certain factors like knowledge and skill, the competency of the individual, growth need strength, and satisfaction with contextual factors. That is also important. Okay. Yeah, I will come to that. Let me explain about the knowledge and skill, that is competency. See, the question is that the individuals, okay, differ in terms of their personality, in terms of their need strength, isn't it? So what will happen? How you are going to, I mean, the individuals are going to respond to these enriched jobs. So suppose if you are going to enrich their job, how it is being taken or perceived by the person who is performing the job. For example, if you increase the skill variety, and if he doesn't have the knowledge and skill base, then what will happen? He may not take it well, isn't it? Because he requires a number of knowledge and skill base to perform the job. If it includes a number of tasks which requires different kind of skills, isn't it? So employees need competency to perform required job effectively so that they have a positive feeling. If they have the knowledge and skill base, the competence which is required, if you increase the skill variety, then they will be positively affected. If that is not so, then it would be negatively affected. I mean, the person who is going to perform the job, if he doesn't have the capability to do the job, then what will happen? He may not take it well. That is there, isn't it? And if it doesn't have the requisite knowledge and skill base to perform the job, then what will happen? It would result in frustration, stress, anxiety, these things, isn't it? Now, another factor is growth need strength. How growth need strength is going to moderate this particular outcome, the personal and work outcomes? Growth need strength means what? At what stage of need satisfaction you are? I don't know whether you're familiar with Maslow's need hierarchy. I think it has been discussed in the class, OB class, isn't it? So you are familiar with Maslow's need hierarchy. So you will find there is a hierarchy of needs starting from, say, top to bottom, where you have something like this. Yeah, I will just explain it. See, this is the need hierarchy, isn't it? So you have lower order needs, okay, that is physiological needs, then safety needs, then social needs, then STEAM needs, And then finally you have self-actualization. Now, when we are talking about growth need strength, basically we are talking about at what stage you are. It goes like that. Means that first of all, you try to satisfy your physiological needs. Once these needs are satisfied, then you move up to satisfy your higher order needs, isn't it? Safety needs. Safety needs means that suppose you are looking for a job, you got a job, so that your basic needs are taken care, isn't it? In terms of food, shelter, clothes, that is taken care. Once you got a job, then you look forward to security. That is, you see that you are confirmed into your job, so that your job is secure, so that your at least basic needs are maintained. You don't have to worry or bother about the basic physiological needs, isn't it? Once your job is confirmed, you are secure in a job, then the lower order needs is taken care. And once you are confirmed in the job, then you move to the next higher order need, that is social needs. So what is social need? I mean, affiliation. That is related to affiliation. How you relate yourself with others. So you'd like to make friends, you try to develop relationship at the workplace. It is possible only when you got a confirmed job. Unless you are confirmed, you think about that one. You think about safety and security of the job. Once you are safe and secure in a particular job, then you try to develop friendship, you try to develop and build up relationship with others, you go for networking, developing relationship and things like that, okay, in the workplace. And then esteem needs. Esteem needs means then you look for what? Growth, status, recognition, challenge and things like that. Because now you know that you are well established, okay, so you look forward to certain other things, like how you can grow in your career, okay, how you can achieve a higher status, isn't it? How you will get challenging jobs to perform. So this self-esteem need is basically related to growth, status, recognition and challenge, isn't it? This is the fourth order need. Most of the people end up their life at here. Now they say that they have achieved everything, isn't it? What else they want? I become a professor, that's all. I mean, if you look at a person who is teaching in a college, if he becomes a professor, because after that there is no promotion, what will you have? You say that you have achieved everything in life. Say for example, if you start your career starting from say a assistant manager, but after several years go through these higher order needs and you become say CEO of that organization. You say that yes, you have achieved everything. Whatever you wanted in life, you have become that. You got it. In terms of money, in terms of motivation, in terms of recognition, in terms of status, challenge, everything is there. So only few people move beyond this particular point. That is, whatever you have been doing so far, you are doing it for yourself. Now it is time to return back to the society. What you are doing it for others, and that is possible only when you are self-actualized. Self-actualized means that you have realized your potential. Self-actualization is related to realization of potential and how that potential is used for the benefit of the community and the society, isn't it? So when we are talking about need strength, basically we have to see that at what stage of need strength the person is. If he is not able to fulfill his the basic needs, he is still struggling to meet both ends meet, then in that case what will happen? He does not want to have more challenging job, whether it is task is being recognized or not hardly matters for him, isn't it? That is very important. So you have to see that at what stage of growth need the individual is. That would affect his level of motivation. If he is say on the third level or the fourth level, then definitely if you increase these content factors, it would result in higher motivation and better job satisfaction, isn't it? Suppose you are looking for recognition, status, challenge, and then these things are provided to you, then probably you will be more motivated compared to when you are still struggling for a good job, secure job, and things like that. Okay. So if you have high need strength, then you respond favorably to these things. If you have low need strength, then you do not want to respond favorably to these strength. Okay. Now another factor is satisfaction with contextual factors. What are these contextual factors? Yes. Yes, the factors which are outside the content. I mean, content is related to the task. The context provides you the environment, the broader guidelines, policies of the organizations, isn't it, which direct you to behave in a particular way. So what does it include? It includes policies of the administration, technical supervision that you are receiving, salary and benefits, interpersonal relationship, working conditions. All these are contextual factors. Okay, what kind of culture you have, what kind of political environment exists in the organization. So all this is going to provide you a context within which you are going to perform the job, and it would definitely affect your level of motivation and satisfaction. If you think that you are being deprived, you are pushed to a job which is not significant because of political reasons, isn't it? Because there is some political maneuvering and you have pushed to a job which is more or less same that you are doing, but it does not have that much significance, definitely it would not result in any kind of motivation, isn't it? Okay. So these are the factors which is going to moderate the relationship between the core job characteristics and personal and work related outcomes, isn't it? If you respond favorably to this, it means your higher order need strength. Okay, contextual factors are favorable, you have the competence to perform the different kind of job, then if you increase that, probably it would result in better motivation and satisfaction, isn't it? Now the next thing is that how to find out whether the job is designed properly or not. Okay, how you know that the job which has been designed, which already exists, is going to create interest, motivation and challenge in the people or not? What is to be done? It means you are going for diagnosis of the job diagnosis. I mean, suppose you will go to a doctor, he will diagnose it to find out what is the problem, isn't it? Similarly, if the job is not good and because of which the performance is not good, then it has to be seen that how it can be made better in terms of its design, so that the person who is going to perform it find it more attractive and meaningful, isn't it? So basically you go for job diagnosis, and a survey is conducted basically, which is known as job diagnostic survey. This job diagnosis survey is conducted to find out different contextual factors. I am talking about the content factors which are present in the job, okay, where the person is lacking. So you use an instrument to find out how well a job is designed, isn't it? Now, how well a job is designed means that to what extent it is able to create motivation and interest in the people, that is to be find out, isn't it? I mean, if a job is designed well, it means that it is going to create more interest, challenge, and person would be highly motivated to perform it, isn't it? So what you calculate basically is a score using an instrument, survey instrument, and this is known as MPS. MPS is nothing else but motivating potential score. Okay. So this motivating potential score is calculated. Okay. Now how you calculate this motivating potential score? Basically there is a survey instrument, a questionnaire is used, it is given to the individual to fill up. Okay. And then once he fills it up, you calculate a score, basically that is motivating potential, that what is the potential of this particular job to motivate the individual. If you find that the potential is low, it means something is to be done to increase that score, so that the person finds some interest and challenge to perform the job, isn't it? So if you look at how this is calculated, then a formula is used, and this is skill variety plus task identity plus task significance divided by 3, and that is multiplied by autonomy and feedback. So this is the formula that is used to calculate. Yeah, I will explain that. See, there is nothing. What actually we have done here, that skill variety. So these are the content factors on which you are getting some score. Okay. Suppose you get here 5, you get here 7 task items. See that number of items related to each of these content factors. Here you get 4. So how much you get? 16, which is divided by 3. Okay. And then it is multiplied by the score of, say, autonomy and freedom. So whatever score you get, you have a benchmark standard score. So you have a standard score. Okay. So this standard score, suppose x, and you get a score y. So you compare this x and y. Where is your score compared to the standard score? Standard score means that motivation, isn't it? Isn't it? I mean that level of motivation is necessary to perform the job well. It means the job design is standard. Okay. So you look at your score, that is y, by using this kind of calculation, using this formula. So for each of these factors, whether it is skill variety, task identity, task significance, you have a scale. Okay. Survey scale, basically it's a questionnaire, 5-point or 7-point item scale, and you mark it, and then you come out with a score, and this score is compared with a standard score to find out the level of motivation which is there. I mean, what is the potential to motivate can be found out by looking at the score that you get. So yes, 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 yes. X has been already arrived at by administering this scale to a large population. Yes, definitely. What actually happens, that standard motivation scale, standard motivation score has already been arrived at by administering it on a large scale of population. Okay, and then calculating that one. What actually happens, if you are familiar with the rule of normal probability, what will happen? If you increase the sample size, the average will be closer to the mean, isn't it? So this is nothing else but the standard score. So for example, say why we say that 50 is the average score out of 100, because if you give a test to a number of people, more and more people, they would be more close to, the average would be close to 50 only, isn't it? But if you give a population, if you have a population of say 20 and you administer this scale, you may not get a score of 50. There may be some deviation. So if you increase the population, the average would be closer to mean, isn't it? So this is nothing else but the mean score against which you compare your score. So once you have identified the motivating potential, then what happens? You can see that where the person is lacking, and accordingly you take certain measures that how the job can be enriched. Okay, it's clear to you? So this was about job enrichment. Now the last approach, that is socio-technical system. Socio-technical system is basically what actually we do. We try to increase the impact as much as possible. So as well as we also try to make it as much as complex. If you remember the very first slide which I showed, on one side you had compact for impact factor, and the side complexity. So socio-technical system, it stands where, if you have this line, you have impact here and complexity here, means socio-technical system is here, isn't it? Here you have socio-technical system, but it is very difficult to have this kind of arrangement where the level of complexity is higher as well as the impact factor of that particular job is maximum, and that is only for a few jobs. The number of jobs that for that you can increase the level of complexity and impact factor, maybe 1 or 2 in the organization, isn't it? Maybe CEO's job or vice president or the general manager's job, which will have more complexity in terms of its say nature as well as its impact. So I mean, you are interested to in this those jobs or design those jobs which are only few in nature, or those which are more in nature, more, isn't it? Because they are going to perform the job, isn't it? And at the higher level, they already understand what they have to do, isn't it? Since they are responsible for planning, execution and implementation of the entire activities, they understand what their responsibilities are, and they also know how complex the nature of job that they have taken up, isn't it? So that is, it means you are increasing the technical aspects as well as the social aspects both. So that's why we call it socio-technical system. Okay, so you design jobs to meet the demand using the social satisfaction as well as technical satisfaction both. Okay, so that's all about job design. We'll close it here, and then next topic that we'll take up is job analysis. Okay, so we'll have a break.